There was a time where mascots were everything in the fast food industry. McDonald's had Ronald the Clown, Burger King had the King, KFC had Colonel Sanders. These characters and people gave a lot of life to the brand. Subway was one of the companies that wanted to get in on this, and in 1999, they struck gold with Jared Fogle, a man who lost 245 pounds just by eating Subway every single day. It was the absolute perfect marketing campaign. What became one single commercial became a 15-year-long relationship. Subway's profits skyrocketed because of Jared, and he was worth a very humble $15 million. But deep down, Jared was hiding a secret. Jared was the complete opposite of the wholesome person that he made everyone out to be. This is a story of Jared from Subway, a monster in plain sight. So let's cut the bullshit and get right into it. Now, Jared's obesity starts where most does, at childhood. All day, every day, Jared would eat junk food while sitting his fat ass on the couch playing video games. It would start to add up, and by middle school, he weighed 250 pounds. He literally was heavier than the teachers. The more he got bullied, the more he ate food to cope with it, and the fatter he got, which made him get even more bullied. It was a non-stop cycle. Jared was the chubby, nerdy kid who sat by himself at lunch. Sitting next to him was social suicide. Jared continued this lifestyle all the way into college when he weighed a hefty 425 pounds. Every single day, he was drinking up to 15 cans of soda and consuming 10,000 calories. His everyday life was not fun. He couldn't go on to planes or roller coasters. Even a mere walking was literally a challenge for him. He literally wore an XXXXXXL shirt, which they don't even make, and you specifically had to get those made for you. At college, he specifically chose classes that were close to him and made sure that he was able to actually fit in the seats. Even with the pleading of his family, Jared had really no plans or hope of actually losing any weight, even though his life was an absolute struggle. Because of Jared's obesity, he started to suffer from sleep apnea, which makes you fall asleep at random places. He would literally just doze off randomly in class or on campus, which was pretty embarrassing. But one day, Jared was driving his car to class and literally fell asleep at the wheel and got into a crash that almost cost him his life. And that's when Jared made the realization that he had to change. So in 1998, he made a vow that he would lose the weight no matter what. Jared would change his diet entirely and would only eat at Subway. His diet went as followed: one small turkey sub in the morning, one large veggie sub at night with some baked chips and a diet soda. Now, why Subway? Well, to be honest, the reason was because it was actually 10 steps away from where he lived on campus. No joke. And again, since Jared wasn't very mobile, this was kind of really the smart decision. It was really more out of convenience rather than preference. But it was also because of the fact that Subway constantly advertised themselves as healthy. Lots of fast food places like McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Domino's, they don't really shy away from the fact that they are extremely terrible for you. They kind of just blind it with all these bright colors and fancy logos to distract you from it. But Subway didn't do that. Their whole marketing campaign was trying to convince customers that they were the healthier option. In 1999, their campaign was literally 7 sandwiches, 6 grams of fat. Jared would only eat these Subway sandwiches during the day and nothing else. He went from losing 1 pound to 10 pounds to over 100 pounds. Within a single year, Jared weighed 180 pounds, dropping 245 pounds. He literally now weighed less than half of what he used to be. It was such an extreme and quick change that he was literally unrecognizable to people on campus. When he walked by fellow students, they did not know that this slim guy was the same Jared Fogle that barely could fit in the fucking class seats. His own roommate that lived with him did not even recognize him at first. This actually inspired him to write a story about Jared for their college newspaper, the Indiana Student Daily. He wrote how Jared lost all this weight literally just by eating Subway. This was noticed by Men's Health, and they are literally one of the biggest magazines in the world. And they featured him in an article called Stupid Diets That Actually Work, because essentially, it was a stupid diet. Subway is marketed as healthy, but that doesn't mean it's actually healthy. They've had a lot of weird health scandals, like how the tuna that they serve doesn't actually have any tuna in it. Their sandwiches are actually extremely fatty, got a lot of sodium, and very processed. It's not really stuff you should be putting in your body. And I do like Subway. To be honest, the main reason why Jared even lost the weight was because he was in such an extreme calorie deficit. But regardless of how dumb it was, it did help Jared lose quite a lot of weight and helped him in more ways than you really could imagine. He was slim, confident and now could finally enjoy all the things that he really wanted to enjoy. He could finally get the real college experience. And the good things just kept on coming. Soon after the Men's Health article came out, Subway themselves got attention to Jared, and they saw huge dollar signs. They reached out and they wanted to share his story for a regional TV commercial. Nothing crazy, just a test run to see how it goes. But little did they know that on January 1st of 2000, a star was born. But first, I need to tell you guys about Aura, which is today's sponsor. Now, how many times have you gotten emails from those random spam companies, or texts from those random ass numbers about an update from a UPS package that you didn't even order? Well, if this has ever happened to you, then that means that your information has been leaked online, and it's now gone to the hands of very shady companies that are trying to make money off of it. This has become a very huge problem, and it's only going to get worse, which is why you need Aura. Aura reaches out to all of those shady companies that try to profit off of your information and request to get your information taken down from them, and legally, they have to agree to do it. If you try to do it yourself, it would take hours and hours and hours, but Aura does it within seconds. Aura even tells you how many companies they reach out to and how many companies they were able to successfully get your information taken down from. So you can finally say bye-bye to all of those annoying ass phone messages. What's even better is that Aura monitors your personal accounts like your banking account. So if any shady activity happens on them, they will notify you immediately so you can get ahead of it. Now, I only like to promote stuff on my channel that I actually think will benefit the people watching it, and Aura is one of those things. I actually use Aura and I genuinely love it. It has genuinely made me feel so secure and keeping my information protected. So please, if you are interested in using them, use the link right here on the screen or click the link in my bio. The commercial was a hit. People loved Jared. I mean, he wasn't anything special, he was just a normal guy. But that's why people flocked to Jared so much. Because he wasn't anything special. He was just a regular guy. Someone that could be your neighbor or someone that you would see at the grocery store or in the office. He was just this chill, nerdy looking, nice guy. And that's exactly why he was perfect. He was relatable. People saw a lot of themselves in him. And people love seeing an underdog win. A person who was a total loser beats the odds and becomes a winner. That's who Jared was. He had this incredible weight loss journey, but also still seemed like this super humble, down-to-earth guy. But what really helped is that Subway's main audience doesn't really cater to children that a lot of other fast food places like McDonald's does. McDonald's really advertises to a lot of kids with toys, bright colors, and a lot of pop culture collabs. But Subway advertises to adults who are looking for something to get on their lunch break or for after work. And with the stigma of fast food being unhealthy combined with the correlation of rising obesity rates, Jared could not have come at a better time. Also, he looked way older than he actually seemed. Like, he looks 40, but in reality he's 22, which is a surprise to me. The same year that Jared started being in these Subway commercials, their sales skyrocketed by 18%, which is the biggest growth rate they've ever had. Subway knew that Jared was going to be the future of their company, and they wanted to lock him in. They offered him a deal for $1.1 million every single year. He would do commercials, events, appear at openings, the works. Each ad was more iconic and successful than the last. In a matter of a few years, Jared became one of the most recognizable brand figures ever. The image of the pants that Jared used to wear at 425 pounds that are big enough to use as a tent was iconic alone. It was just such an eye-grabbing symbol, and it worked so well with Subway's new motto to eat fresh, again trying to really convince people that they're healthy, when again they're not. Between 1988 and 2011, Subway's sales went from $3 billion to $11.5 billion. Jared gave a new life to Subway, and he was inescapable. South Park mimicked him, Jimmy Kimmel mimicked him, WWE hosted him. He was even on an episode of To Catch a Predator. That wouldn't age well. In 2004, Jared would start the Jared Foundation, a non-profit organization that was designed to help beat child obesity. Jared would help spread awareness for it by going to schools and talking to kids, and would raise money to fight the cause. It just made him so much more likable. Jared was living the absolute dream. He was famous. He was worth over $15 million fucking dollars. He had a hot wife, and he was traveling the world changing lives. What could possibly ruin this? Now, the cracks around Jared's character would start to unfold long before he was ever caught. His weird activity wasn't just something that happened all at once. It slowly built up over time. In fact, it happened for so long, it's actually kind of hard to determine when it officially started. The start of it was when it was revealed that the Jared Foundation was a complete sham. Barely any of the money that they raised actually went to the causes that they promised to donate to. Now, between 2008 and 2013, they raised over $650,000, yet they only donated $146,000. So where did the rest of that money go? Well, much of it was spent on Jared's fun. He used the money for golf tournaments, meals, entertainment, and more. 26 26% of the money raised an entire quarter was literally not even accounted for. Where that money went, God knows where. The foundation didn't even spend $5 for the registration fee. $5 for a registration fee, even though they were alerted about this many times. Indiana dissolved the organization, but the IRS still recognized it, which was really the important part. A lot of celebrities and rich people will create these nonprofits to really donate all this money in front of the press and then slowly funnel it back into their own pockets. This is how they get a fat tax cut, because charities and nonprofits don't get taxed. The CEO of GoPro did this, the Kardashians have done it. I mean, there's so many people that have done this. It's nothing new, and it's extremely common, unfortunately. But with Jared, it did not stop there, because he started to get very reckless with the money. He spent tens of thousands on strip clubs and prostitutes, and it's estimated that he spent at least $12,000 on escorts alone. All of this activity would eventually lead to him and his first wife getting a divorce. The actual speeches that Jared gave at school were strictly for publicity. It gave Jared that wholesome image of really being a good, down-to-earth guy who wanted to help change the world. This was good for his brand, and it would help Subway hire him for more commercials and make more money. Now, this charity fraud was discovered around 2012, but really nothing actually happened with it. It didn't make any headlines because Jared was just so loved. No one really would believe it. And his divorce was not really heavily publicized at all. The details were extremely hidden, even to this day. No one think that he would sham people like this or be unfaithful. And this simply just made things a lot worse. The money and fame was starting to really get to Jared's head, and being able to get away with stuff like this made him feel invincible. Because you see, not only was a lot of the money from the charity spent on fun, but 60% of it actually went to the executive director of the Jared Foundation, Russell Taylor, the man who would become Jared's partner in crime. Now, Jared met Russell while he was going around and speaking at schools and needed someone to help him write a speech. And so Jared asked Russell to help him write it. Jared liked Russell and his work so much that he asked him to come along with him. And soon enough, they became best pals. Jared asked Russell to be the executive director of the Jared Foundation, and Russell happily said yes. Russell was a family man with a wife and a kid, and he had a lot of experience and nonprofits. And just like Jared, he also was into freaky shit. During the day, they would talk to kids at schools, and then during the night, they would go absolutely wild at strip clubs. They stayed at the fanciest hotels and made sure to always ball out in the private rooms. And together, this began their 12-year run. Russell was paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to keep up his lifestyle. He was getting paid so much money to simply just keep up Jared's facade while also fucking hookers and doing drugs with him. And for a lot of people, that's probably a dream job. But while Russell was paid like a partner, he was treated like a servant. Jared would ask him to do various things like get the nearby stripper that he was eyeing to go home with him. And Russell was a weird dude. I mean, like, he was into bestiality, which I'm gonna get into later. But he wouldn't realize just how fucked up Jared actually was. Now, since Russell was away from the office so much while doing all this overseas traveling, he was worried that people were sneaking into his office and stealing from him. This paranoia also came from all the drugs he was doing. So he placed these motion sensor cameras that were disguised as radios and alarm clocks to really see if there was anything going on. And he's right, there were people sneaking into his office, but they weren't stealing from him. Russell's cameras actually captured a young intern going into his office and doing it with her boyfriend, right in the room. And they were both teenagers, so obviously they were underage. Russell told Jared about it, expecting him to get disgusted and be so flabbergasted that people would do such a thing in a professional room. But Jared didn't react like that. Instead, he told Russell that he wants to see the full footage, and Russell gave it to him. Jared then asked Russell to put more cameras around the office to capture more moments like this. At first, Russell didn't do it because he thought he has to be joking. Like, they're into weird stuff, but like this is pretty crazy. But right after this, Jared then starts to buy him quite a lot of things. He gets him a brand new house, Mercedes, and pays off all of his family's expenses. And then once again, he asked Russell to put more of these cameras in his house. And this was Jared's way of getting Russell to follow his beck and call. Because after all, if Russell says no, well then, no more nice things, no more job, no more money. And so, Russell would oblige putting more of these cameras into his house. He would get more kids to stay at his home, specifically the ones that Jared really liked. He would get footage of them changing and bathing. He would even give them alcohol to make them more loose the way that Jared liked it. He also got a really weird, sick thrill from being able to control Russell, because essentially he controlled his salary. Jared would often refer to himself as Daddy. Whenever he wanted something from Russell, he would literally say, "Remember, Daddy's paying for your things." Like, I can't make this shit up. Like, he literally enjoyed this genuine control that he had over him. Even for the fun of it, he would make him just do really weird shit, like eating food that messed up his gluten intolerance. Like, what? Like, why? Jared would even have Russell directly acquire CP from the internet to send to him. In these videos, Jared found victims that were as young as 6, 6 years old. If that wasn't enough, Russell would even send pictures of his stepdaughters to Jared. There was just no limit. But the photos and the videos weren't enough for Jared. He wanted the real thing. He would go on specific types of websites that were designed to get specific types of escorts, if you know what I mean. It was basically a sex trafficking website. And in 2017, Jared paid a 17-year-old for her services, if you know what I mean. He would even do it again with her at the Ritz-Carlton, which is like one of the bougiest hotels ever. And Jared was fully aware that she was underage. This is confirmed. But at the same time that Jared even tried to acquire another escort that was 16 years old. As he states, the younger the better. Jared would do this pretty often. He would offer fellow escorts a finder's fee if they were able to find him underage workers. This would be right after doing it with them so that he knew that they were not undercover cops. Now, this specific story is the only confirmed one that happened. How many times he actually did it is quite literally uncountable. He did this all over the world, traveling to other countries like Thailand, where a lot of that shit goes down, as Russell would say himself in court. But even then, Jared was just completely unstoppable. On the surface, he really kept up the wholesome image. He got married to a new wife who was a teacher, and they had 2 kids together, and he was still doing all the charity work and the commercials. But eventually, things would start to crumble down for him. Now, back in 2007, during Jared's first ever marriage, one of the women that he allegedly had an affair with was a radio host by the name of Rochelle. Now, I say allegedly because it's rumored that they slept together, but nothing really actually confirms this, at least to what I know. Now, during this time, Jared was speaking at a local middle school, and she wanted to interview him, and they filmed a television program later in the auditorium of that same school. Now, while they sat on the couch getting ready to film this program, Jared was kind of flirting with her a little bit, touching her arm and stuff, and then he leaned into her ear and straight up said, "I find middle school girls so hot." Just out of the blue. Why he had admitted this to a completely random person is beyond me. Maybe it was part of like this weird thrill where he would tease people and tell people all this weird shit he was doing, thinking that he would get away with it. Maybe it's because he knew it was wrong and deep down was trying to subconsciously confess it. Either way, Rochelle was just beyond stunned by this, and she knew she had to do something about it because clearly something was gonna happen. She went to the police and told them exactly what he told her, but they couldn't really do anything. Yeah, it's fucked up to be attracted to kids, but technically he didn't actually do anything to any kids, or at least as far as they know, so there really was nothing to arrest him for. So over time, she would start to record their conversations on the phone. Slowly over time, she tried to ease him into confessing to some of the shit that he's done. This took 4 years of hours and hours of extremely long, uncomfortable conversations, but eventually she was able to get something out of it. Jared would eventually admit to her for his weird desire for wanting to sleep with minors and the strategies that he did for making it happen. Now, the tapes are literally copyrighted, so I can't actually play them for you, but just know it's very fucked up. But not only did Jared admit to that, but he also did confess to a lot of the minors that he did sleep with, including some of his friends' daughters. After 4 years of enduring the weirdest late night talks followed by hours of crying after every single one, she finally had something to turn into the FBI. She had hours and hours of all this evidence. Now, what did they do with all of it? Well, nothing. Jack shit. Now, again, admitting to wanting to sleep with minors is not really proof of anything directly. That's fucked up, but it still doesn't mean he actually did anything. And as for the confessions of sleeping with underage escorts and fellow people's daughters, well, apparently that still wasn't enough proof of anything. Even though he literally admitted to doing this, it wasn't enough for some reason for the FBI to actually arrest him. Now, even though Jared literally had recorded evidence of him sleeping with minors, the FBI claims that the only way they could actually have a case against him is if they discovered that he literally possessed CP, or if a victim came forward. But none of this happened. Now, Rochelle often boasts herself as the woman who took down Jared and worked directly with the FBI wearing a wire, but that's not really true. Even though she got quite a lot of stuff that should have been used against him, it didn't really actually lead to an investigation on him. But she did convince the public of how fucked up he was, because when these tapes came out, it was extremely disturbing. So what actually led to him getting caught? In September of 2014, a Jane Doe report came forward claiming that Russell Taylor tried to send her CP. And in case you don't know, Jane Doe is the name that people go under when they try to be anonymous. Now, Russell and his wife had an open marriage where they did a lot of weird shit with a lot of weird people, but it wasn't like on some Diddy shit, you know? And this Jane Doe person in particular actually happened to own quite a few horses. And then one day, Russell asked her if he can do it with one of the horses. Remember how I said he was into bestiality? Yeah, I kind of meant that shit. She thinks he's joking, but then he sends her a picture of a naked woman with a dog doing a certain type of activity. And then he offered to send her CP. He never actually sent it, but this was just enough to get his home raided by the FBI. And they found terabytes upon terabytes of dark shit. However, this did not immediately connect to Jared. Not yet, at least. years. Now, when all this happened, Jared acted like as if he had no idea what was happening, and it was a complete shocker to him. I was shocked to learn of the disturbing allegations against Mr. Taylor. Effective immediately, the Jared Foundation is severing all ties with Taylor. Jared let Russell take the fall. No shocker. The public thought Jared was clean, but people close to them knew that Jared was involved in some sort of way, they just couldn't really prove it yet. Now, Jared did try to buy Russell's silence by basically paying for all his family's expenses and continuing to send money into his account quietly. But the problem was this didn't really matter because the evidence was already stacked against Jared. He just didn't know it yet. In the summer of 2015, Jared's last ever commercial with Subway would premiere.
Hi, I'm Jared the Subway guy, and this is my story. Young guy eats too much junk food and gains a lot of weight. Guy changes his life by eating at Subway twice a day and walking a lot. Guy loses over 200 pounds and keeps weight off for 17 years. Guy now has 2 kids, and even more reason to pass on better eating habits to young people everywhere. This is my story. Ready to write yours? Subway, eat fresh.
Now, when Jared and Russell were doing their dirty work, they were pretty confident about how they were sending each other material because they really thought they were going to get away with it. A little too confident. So much so that the police didn't actually need to raid Russell's house at all to find the evidence against Jared. It was right on his phone. Russell and Jared had constantly texted each other CP. Many of the victims were kids that were acquired from the Jared Foundation, which is all that the cops needed to raid Jared's home. And they found a good amount of stuff. The police found 2 SD cards of CP from Eastern Europe, and Jared was officially done. The news came as a complete shock to everybody. The same wholesome guy who lost all this weight and was doing all this charity was actually one of the most fucked up people ever. Immediately, everyone who worked close to him or knew him cut ties. Subway dropped the partnership, his wife divorced him. He was supposed to be in this movie Sharknado 3 that dropped him immediately. His career was in the toilet. A month later, Jared committed to a plea agreement where he would plead guilty to 2 counts of receiving and distributing CP, and 1 count of engaging with a minor. This was simply only a fraction of the actual shit he did, and he was sentenced to 13 years in jail, while Russell only got 27 years in jail, and it's highly likely that Jared will be out as early as 2029. But at least a significant amount of his fortune was wiped from him. He had to pay $1.4 million to 14 different victims, so $100,000 each. His wife got $7 million from the divorce, and who knows how much money he spent on all of these legal fees. He does still have around $4 million, but at least a very big amount was wiped from him. Jared really had the audacity before his sentencing to claim that he was simply trying to be a good person and get all this activity behind him. I don't know when he planned to do that because he was doing all this weird shit for over a decade. He even tried to get his sentencing appealed because he argued that the judge had something against pedos, which is kind of like a no-brainer. Yes, the justice system has something against people that diddle kids. That's kind of how it fucking works. I don't know what kind of argument he was trying to present with that. And obviously, as you can imagine, this was a PR nightmare for Subway. A simple announcement on Twitter saying that he's no longer part of their brand was not going to cut it. They basically had to completely redo their marketing strategy. For 15 years, Jared was their main thing, so they had to find a new main thing. Their new campaign was Founded on Fresh, which kind of focused on the history of Subway and how they source their ingredients. One of their biggest campaigns was the $5 footlong, but they stopped doing that because of inflation and how it wasn't really that profitable. So instead, they introduced the $6 footlong, which was basically trying to really capture that spark again. Their sales were extremely hurt from the controversy, but overall in the long run, their sales weren't hurt that badly. However, a lot of people do wonder just how much Subway really knew about Jared and if they were able to stop it. He was so comfortable with telling random people like Rochelle about his crazy ass fantasies. How many people did he just casually say things like this to, and how many of them did nothing? Surely she wasn't the only one, and she wasn't. In 2004, Subway's vice president of marketing was actually alerted about an incident where Jared tried to solicit an underage girl at a Vegas event. Nothing happened. In 2008, various Subway franchisees owners tried to warn the CEO himself about Jared's weird ass comments about minors. Again, nothing happened. Jared's ex-wife even tried to file a lawsuit against Subway claiming that they knew and did nothing. In the suit, she says that Subway received at least 3 different reports about Jared's weird ass activity with minors and they did nothing. She even claims that a Subway employee just straight up admitted to not doing anything. The case was dismissed because this was filed in Indiana and Subway operates their business outside of Indiana. Yes, that was enough to get the lawsuit dismissed. So anyone involved that may have looked the other way and knew about Jared's activity got off scot-free. But at least Jared got what he deserves, for now. Jared definitely has not gotten easy in prison. He's been beaten relentlessly by inmates. In case you don't know, being a pedo is like the worst thing you can be in jail. In 2021, Jared spoke to news outlets for the very first time in 6 years. He expressed that he really screwed up and that he was being completely selfish, that he constantly thinks about how he let his family down. He claims that in prison he's actually been in the best shape ever, as he's been running 4 miles a day. When he gets out in 2029, either he actually learns from his lessons or he's just as bad as he was before. Jared's story is a tale about even how the most humble people in the world can become some of the most fucked up people that you know. Jared was given the golden ticket of a lifetime. He literally made generational wealth by going around the world and showing people his pants. Being famous while getting to change lives is a dream come true, and it was literally given to Jared on a golden platter, but he still used it for evil. At the end of the day, you can give almost anybody on the planet the tools for full fulfillment, but if deep down there's a monster in there, it will come out in some sort of way.